We are sitting in the set of Will and Grace during our very last season, and we mean it this time. It feels right. It feels like the right time. 11 years with a little 12-year gap in between. Um, I think I'm just filled with gratitude. You know, when we decided to come back, it was for 10 episodes. That was it. It was going to be 10 episodes. And so now we're going to be doing 53. So it is sort of an embarrassment of riches that we've been able to just play and delve into these four characters' lives as middle-aged people, and it's been a blast. In a way, it's not even a reboot anymore. You know, I think of a reboot as like just sort of like a small window into the characters, you know, for a finite small period of time. And we've had the luxury of 3 full seasons, and we've explored so many important issues, and we've been able to be the Will and Grace that we always were. And that was the most important thing to me, was that we maintain the voice of the show and the intent of the show, which was to push boundaries, to be provocative, to always be funny first, but to be clever and to be timely. And I'm very proud that we've been able to do that. Grace in season 3 is going through the process of becoming a mother, pregnancy, which was never in the plan when we came back for the reboot. So that was a surprise for me as an actress, and it's been amazing. I was actually really pregnant in season 6. And so I had the belly, and it was all about hiding it. And now Grace actually gets to have the belly, which is a blast. But it's interesting to play Grace as an older mom to be, and all of the concerns that come with that, the worries that come with that. I think you know, there's been a big shift in our culture, and women are starting to have babies much later. It's no longer, you don't really see women 20 years old having babies very often. So I think, again, it is reflecting real life, and that is meaningful to me. What I can say is that I think that everyone's story wraps up happily and poignantly. I think that there were a lot of fans who were sort of questioning the way it was wrapped up last time, with playing with time, and I think that this time these 4 characters are being sent off in a way that is really gratifying and satisfying. Being a part of Will and Grace is it's the greatest gift of all time. You know, as an actor, you hope to be a working actor and to be a journeyman, so to speak, and to go from character to character. And I don't think any of us ever imagined on the night we shot the pilot that we would be embarking on something that was going to ultimately be really, really meaningful socially, politically, to people who had not yet been really represented on primetime television at that point. We all wanted to make people laugh. That's our job. That's what we want to do. And there still is nothing like show night, when we have a live audience here and people are just howling with laughter. it's like a drug for all of us. But to be able to make people laugh and to make people think and feel, that's the trifecta. The fact that there's so much heart in Will and Grace is, I think, one of the things that I love most about the show. I think if we were only funny, we would not be able to challenge people about their perceptions about people who are different from them. I think if it's just funny all the time, it just sort of stays up here, and it's just, you can sort of say, oh yeah, it's fun, it's funny. But the writers have been so brilliant in that they have, throughout the years, built these characters into fleshed out three-dimensional characters that audience members have come to really love and be invested in. And so when something happens to any of these characters, it matters. And I think that's one of the things that makes Will and Grace stand out. The guest stars that have come over the 11 years that we've been doing this have been just incredible. And they've added so much to our show, and it has been just fun for us. It's like, come play in our playground, come play. And I think that's part of the draw. I think actors watch the show and they say, wow, they're really having a good time. And because it's an old school kind of comedy, it's a laugh out loud kind of comedy. Single camera comedy, often the comedy will make you smile, but it won't make you like laugh out loud. And I think there's something nostalgic about the show, and people want to just have the experience of being in this little playground for a little while. I think Matt Damon is one of my favorite guest stars because I think he surprised me so much. He just threw himself in and was so game and so funny. And Michael Douglas dancing with Eric McCormack still is one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. It's so creepy. And Debbie Reynolds as my mother. I mean, come on. I mean, there's nothing better than that in the world. And yeah, I mean, I can list like 50 people off the top of my head who have come and really made an impact. Minnie Driver, Blythe Danner. I mean, these are people who are friends in my real life. I will miss laughing every day. At no time in my life have I ever been a part of anything where I would come to work and know that I would be laughing at some point. And laughter is a gift. Laughter is healing. So I think that's going to be the thing that I'm going to miss the most. And of course, the people. I mean, I would say 80% of our crew is the same crew from 20 years ago. So this is a family with a history, and there's no question there's going to be tears on that last night.
In some ways, it's harder to say goodbye this time. I think because the first time we did 8 seasons, we were young and full of ourselves, and we'd done lots, and it's time to move on. And I think now I certainly know for me, I have a greater appreciation of how great a job this is, and how great these writers are, and the words we get to say every week. Words that are never in stone, words that change day after day because they're collaborative, and we're firing on most cylinders, and that doesn't happen very often. So I think this time I am very aware that this is a goodbye. The only thing I love more than being given new lines and having to do them right away is the look on guest stars' faces when they go, "What is happening? What is that? When do I do that?" Now it's like these are just muscles that we have had since the beginning, and they went away for 11 years, and when we came back, we had to get that back again. But it keeps you alive, and because we're playing the same characters for years, there's something that keeps it very, very organic. It's not like doing a stage play and then you've said those lines 1,000 times and now you have to change. This character is alive, and so a new joke, a new input, I'm open to it. It's probably the most awake I'll ever feel doing something. In many ways, this exceeded my expectations, mostly because it seemed to have exceeded everybody else's. My favorite thing over the last 3 years has been people coming up on the street and saying, "I was worried. I thought, don't mess with this, and it's even better. It's even better than the first time." That's a tribute to Max, to the writers, to everybody that creates this show. There was no intention just to kind of bring it back for the sake of nostalgia or for the sake of making a buck. It came back because these 4 characters were still alive in people's imaginations and in some ways had more to say now than they did then. The great pleasure of coming back to Will, because we finished this series. I used to fight the idea of any kind of, even before the word reboot was around, just any kind of coming back to it at all, because we finished it. He had a husband, he had a son, and he grew older, and life was fine. To come back to it and sort of throw that ending out and say, what would it be like for a gay man of a certain age to be single again, to not have kids the way he always talked about when he was 40, to still be living with his roommate? Is that pathetic? Does it feel stagnant? Does it feel like we're just doing the same show? Or can we make the show about that? And I think that's what happened. Will, for the first episode of this reboot, was proud of who he was. He was not afraid anymore I got to have a boyfriend. I got to live up to this. He still has his neuroses, but so the last 3 years, right up until now, he's been just living his truth. And this year, which has been so great, his truth was, boyfriend or not, I want to have a baby. I want to be a dad. And whereas 13 years ago, when we finished, it felt a little tacked on. It was like, well, if we can't finish this big sort of society-changing gay show without the gay man having it. Now it feels much more organic to the character, and we've spent a whole season doing it with him and with Grace. And I love where they're at. I've loved how many episodes of this last 18 have been informed by 2 people really wanting something and getting it together. And so he's in a great place, and I think he's going to have a very happy ending. It always felt amazing. I was always proud of the show. But we all had the experience, as most people on any show do, that every year went by, be like, Will and Grace. Oh, I remember Will and Grace. That was a great show. What are you doing now? It just seems 10 years go by. And then suddenly the 11th year, we get this very, very, still unbelievable to me, opportunity to get a second act and to reinvent the wheel. And the fact that the characters were welcomed back in, and the fact that it succeeded on an artistic level, and that it got just a lot of respect, that people respected this particular reboot, has just doubled my pride. I can now look forward to the next 10 years, and it's going to have a different feel than the first time. Because people now know that this show is cemented into this chunk of history and had things to say and was, as far as I'm concerned, as funny as any show. And so it's tremendous pride. With the reboot versus the original, were different in that when we started, there was no attempt at cultural relevance. It was we just wanted to be funny, and they're best friends, and he's gay, and then we sort of slowly in the first season into the second season slid into, oh no, we own this. Ellen's gone. We're the gay show on television, and we've got to do something with this. We've got a very Republican character who's very outspoken. What do we do with her? And slowly but surely, personal politics became a very big piece of the second of the first go round. But the second go round, we didn't waste any time. We launched right into politics headlong, which personally I'm glad we didn't stick with too long. We've always had a few jokes here and there, but after that first season, we realized that these characters aren't mouthpieces for the times, because we don't know when this episode is going to air. It's better that we're mouthpieces for feelings, for what's going on culturally and not necessarily always politically. And so we've done certain episodes that I'm particularly proud of, because while they're very much about right now, they will withstand the test of time, I think, as episodes of All in the Family do. I mean, the politics of All in the Family time, sometimes there's episodes you go, what are they talking about? What? But the way we've handled it mostly, I think, will be indelible and will last a long time. We're really lucky. I mean, that the writers dare to make these hairpin turns between something very emotional and something hysterical. But we're also lucky that the four of us, we come from the theater. We understand that something's twice as funny when something's just been twice as sad, and it's my favorite stuff in the show. I mean, virtually, if I had to sit here and think of my 5 favorite scenes, they are dramatic scenes that have some hilarious moments in them. But the hilarity comes out of just how much everyone's really feeling what they're feeling, and not just a kind of bedroom farce, Three's Company, but a real sense of like, you're about to do something that's going to change everything. And that's those are the scenes that will always stick with me. One is probably my favorite thing I've ever done professionally, which is when it was the beginning of season 5 when Grace comes in and tells Will they're not having a baby together because she's met Harry Connick in the park, and we had this dramatic scene that was I think we rehearsed it once, and Jim Burrows said, we're not doing that again. We're just going to leave that alone. We'll do it on show night. So the second time we did it was in front of an audience. And that's the take you'll see on television. And it was I get to thinking about it. It was real, and it was emotional, and it was the result of her and I being together on this stage for 4 years, and what good can come of that, and an audience that was invested because they'd seen every episode. And we finished the scene, and I said, get the hell out of here. And she said, you're out of my life. And we parted ways, and the stage was empty. And normally Jim would say cut, but before he did, I could just hear his voice out here say, beautiful. Cut. So that's my favorite scene. And a similar scene, Sidney Pollack playing my father at my parents' house in the kitchen, and me realizing that he's given my baby blanket to Grace for her baby because he obviously thinks I'm never going to have one. It didn't even occur to him that I would. And we just have this literally a kitchen sink drama scene, and I look back on it now, and A, it's just a great scene, but B, Sidney Pollack. I'm on a sitcom, but I get to do as good a dramatic scene with as good a dramatic actor and director as I could ever wish for. And again, it was completely informed by everything that had come before it. You know, you don't get that very often in like a pilot. That's the result of an audience knowing and loving and caring about your characters, and you inhabiting them for so long that when it all comes out, it's real. The tradition on this show of having guest stars of note because not everybody was doing it. Friends did it, like they'd have a couple of key ones, Brad Pitt or whatever, but it wasn't every week. We got to a point where by season 3, you'd look at a role and go, well, what Oscar winner is that going to be? And it was always true. We have episodes where 3 of the guest stars were major famous people. So it became a place that people recognized that they were coming to have a good time, but they were also coming to be challenged. I think that was always my favorite thing, is the look on certain faces. I think of Michael Douglas, Matt Damon, who very quickly went, oh, you're not fooling around here. This time around, to have Blythe Danner come back, very huge for me, because, well, she's Will's mom, but my mom passed away 3 months after the last Will and Grace aired in 2006, and she always approved of Blythe. She always said, yes, I'll let her be your mother on television, because Blythe is just so beautiful and so perfect, and her timing is hysterical. And we had a couple of scenes over the years that were dramatic. Who have we had this year? There's been so much fun. Joel McHale came on, and there's 2 episodes this season with Joel that I just that I loved. We had Molly Shannon back, which was such a blast. Vanessa Bayer there's certain people that have sort of become part of the family. And of course, Demi Lovato follows in a long line of great female musical guests on the show, and she's playing Will's surrogate. That was a big piece of the show this year, not just because Will's going to have a baby, and why wouldn't the surrogate be part of the story, but because it's Max Smuchnik's story. He very much, when he and his husband were having children, the surrogate in his life was very different than them, and Max is a high energy guy. So the stories that would come out of this, he said, I've got to tell this on television. So in many ways, getting to a 3rd season was on purpose to be able to tell those stories, and it's going to be great to have someone with Demi's reach, because you always want a show like this to reach younger audiences and new people and new faces, and I think that happened this time. I sense it from our studio audience, but just from the reaction on the street, that somehow, as obviously happened with Friends, but it's starting to happen with us, that the younger people are finding the old shows, found the new show, or vice versa, watched the new show with their parents and went, "What? How long's this been around?" Because of Jim Burrows in particular, our director of every episode, this show always feels the same. He likes to do things the same way. So our journey from the first day of reading the script to show night, when that gets messed up because of a weird location or a guest star's schedule, we're like, wait, I get very ADD about it. I'm like, oh, this is the way we do the show. You do it this way. I'll miss that structure. I'll miss knowing what a Thursday is versus a Monday. I'll miss that build to show night. We do a run through on a Thursday. We do a run through on a Friday to show the network. But it's all of it is in service of that night when the curtain drops and the audience goes bananas, and they're watching characters that they know as well as we do. And I'll miss that. I'll miss that I get to have an opening night every week.
I think that Will and Grace is just great classic comedy. It's farce, but it's classic, and it's genuinely funny. It's not a show about being gay. It's not a show about being topical. It's a show about 4 friends and the dynamics between 4 characters and the dynamics between these characters. And then there's something that's just unnameable. There's some kind of alchemy or some kind of energy or charisma between the 4 of us as people and as characters that you can't it's very ephemeral, and you just can't put your finger on what it is. Jim Burrows, our director, has always called it lightning in a bottle. I just want people to be entertained. I just really want people to be able to sit back for 30 minutes and laugh and not think about their troubles or anything else or anything that might be going on in the world or anything, just to be entertained.
We are in the final season of Will and Grace. What started out as supposed to be 10 episodes turned into, I think, 52 episodes. So it's all for the fans. It's all because of the fans. And we are so happy and proud to have been a part of bringing that to everybody. You know, saying goodbye the second time to the show is different in a way, in that it really does now feel final. Before, if I'm being honest, the first time the series ended, it still felt like there were more stories to tell. So when it did come back, it made sense that it came back, because there was still more to do. So this does actually feel like the final. The writers, everybody's so fantastic on the show. We are blessed with great characters, great things to do every week because of those writers. They're just the best in the biz. I love all of them. It's so cool being a part of a show like Will and Grace, in that it's bigger than any of us. Like, the byproduct of what it has supplied to individuals struggling with coming out or their identity or whatever they're doing in life that is hard to deal with. I am so proud to be a part of something that can provide solace to them. And I never knew that was possible in a sitcom when I first got it at such a young age. I was just happy to get a job as an actor, and little did I know that the byproduct of the show would be so much bigger than any of us. I think what the characters go through on Will and Grace reflects what the country is going through, whether it be sex, drugs, religion, anything topical, politics, whatever it is. The characters are going through, and they live in the same world that the audience lives in. So it's a reflection of that. I think some of the ingredients that make a successful sitcom is when there is reality infused with silliness or slapstick. So, levity is needed in order to laugh. And so I think they do a great job of balancing those two things. This season, we have a bunch of great guest stars. We have Demi Lovato, Billy Lord, Blythe Danner comes back to play Will's mom, bunch of people. Ryan Phillippe, who's fantastic. And I think, the draw of people wanting to do this show, because a lot of times we get requests from people to come on the show, which is awesome, is that they see that it's very theater-like. It's a place to come and play and feel safe and experiment in a lot of ways, like you would sketch comedy, happy to provide that to people, and it's always a blast, and I think people have a great time when they come here. When we first did that election video with Get Out the Vote, right, that we did, the crew, everybody did it for free. We just did it for fun, just as a way to get our voice heard. And then when it got all these millions of views, and then the network was like, wait, maybe we should bring this back. And we were like, well, maybe we shouldn't. And then we had these conversations, and here we are. And so I think the thing I'll miss the most is the opportunity to deliver the message weekly to the fans and to new fans. It's because we're ending, so goes the ending of the message that we specifically provided. Hopefully someone else will. The baton was passed to us. We twirled it a little bit, and now we're going to pass the baton on to other people.
It's a gaunt, dead-eyed man who never changes and looks down on everyone.
We're still us.
Yeah. And then that's mine. And then that's you.